All right, hi everyone. Welcome to this live post-game edition. Believe in Bills. Adam Benigni, WGRZ TV. Sal Maiorana is with us from the press box at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. Thanks for joining us live here on YouTube, courtesy of the Believe Network. All right, Sal, 44-42 Rams over the Bills. The win streak comes to an end. The most points scored in an NFL game all season long, and a day in which the Buffalo defense gets completely exploited in this thing, with some questionable coaching at the end of the game. We have a lot to get to. We invite your comments as well. What's your big takeaway from this one?
Yeah, I mean, Adam, this was simply an egregious day for the Bills defense. I mean, we don't see these very often with this Buffalo team. Sean McDermott's defenses generally avoid performances like this. Yes, there's been a couple, like every team, but rarely do we see a day when they literally had no answers for anything the Rams did. 11 of 15 on third down, a big, fail on a key fourth down late in the game, 450 some yards. Matthew Stafford hardly even touched by a pass rush that was non-existent. Receivers just running wide open against a secondary that just doesn't allow that to happen. That's what was so shocking to me more than anything was that, look, I mean, I know Puka Nacua is a great player, but for crying out loud, there was nobody around him on at least half the targets that Stafford was looking towards him. So it was just a horrible performance, and what a shame, because it wasted one of the greatest quarterback performances you're ever going to see in the NFL with what Josh Allen did today.
Yeah, absolutely. Quick word from the sponsor, then we're going to get into all of that. Bet Online, the world's most trusted betting platform, your number one source for everything football. Head to the website today. Get in on the action. Bet Online. The game starts here. Allen, Sal, as you mentioned, 22 of 39, 342, 3 touchdowns, 82 rushing, 3 touchdowns. First player in NFL history to do that. 3 passing, 3 rushing touchdowns in a single game. I mean, that's the caliber of performance we're talking about here. But the line of questioning to Sean McDermott of the postgame focused on the failed sneak late on first down and the need to use, or the decision to use, a timeout there, as opposed to perhaps throw it into the end zone, preserve the timeouts, and give yourself a better chance with the defense on the field with just over a minute left when all that went down. And it basically forced them to go the route of an onside kick, which we all know the percentage. I mean, Tom Brady's doing the game for Fox, and he's, screaming as loud as he possibly could right as that all went. He said, I completely disagree with this. And, there's so much to this game, but that's a significant part of the narrative, especially given the history we're talking about here with Sean McDermott and some of these in-game decisions.
Yeah, I mean, that's an argument or I should say a storyline that we've had with McDermott through the years. And I've always kind of defended him. Yes, there's been some horrible mistakes, 13 seconds. We can go through the list. He's got a litany of them. I still think he's a terrific head coach. He's the right coach for the team, but these things have happened. And that was a complete failure on every level. I mean, to me, it starts with Brady making the call. Now, I asked Josh Allen specifically about that. Was that the play call? Hold on a second. All right, we have to put this on hold because I'm being told I can't do this in a press box. So shocking as it may be. So I'm going to walk while I talk here, Adam.
Okay.
And I'll find a room. Look, it was a horrendous decision by Brady to call the QB sneak. That's where it started. You're on the 1 yard line with 1:06 to go. You've got all 3 timeouts. You have to make the pass call there because if it's incomplete, the clock stops. Do whatever. But you can't possibly call a running play because if you don't get in, then you're going to waste time. Then the big mistake comes when McDermott calls the timeout. Like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you calling timeout? Just get back to the line, spike the ball, or call a pass play and throw it in the end zone. By losing that timeout, they gave away any chance they had of pulling off the miracle comeback because it was down to the onside kick, which you never recover in the NFL. So failure from Brady, failure from McDermott, and then here's Josh Allen playing the game of his life, taking the blame for it, saying he should have got in. I mean, for crying out loud.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that just can't happen.
First of all, I agree with everything you just said. Secondly, one of the things I've always admired about you is your ability to ad lib, which that may be one of the best examples from you.
Hey, I can walk and talk at the same time. How about that?
I've ever seen with a commentary to the press box staff, about the ridiculousness of what just happened. It's
whatever.
A working
some guy got pissed off apparently, and God forbid, that we do our job, but whatever. Okay. So here we are. If I had known this room was available, I would have come right here, but I didn't know this room was available. So let's move on anyways.
All right. Well, I mean, it was a hell of a play by you to get to the point you're at right now without missing
the Bills defense. That's for sure.
That's right. Okay. But before we move on to some of the specifics in this game, when we're talking about coaching, then there's the issue on the final punt for the Rams. The Bills have 9 players on the field.
Yeah.
9.
Now, all things on the table here. I did not wait for McDermott. It was utterly ridiculous that he made us wait over an hour for his press conference, and I bailed. I could not wait. I have too much to do between this and writing my story. I could not sit there and waste my time. So I left because I know the other guys in the media are going to ask the same questions, and it's going to get transcribed for me. So I just wanted to let people know that I was not in there for McDermott, which is why I couldn't ask any questions. I've looked at the transcript, and you can ask me whatever question you want now because I do know what he said, but go ahead and ask what you want to ask. But I just wanted to make sure people knew that I couldn't wait for him, and it was ridiculous. It was so utterly stupid that he does this to us week after week after week. Yeah. And I know fans probably don't care about that, but it's just unprofessional the way he makes us do that. And I had to bail because I have to get to work. Go ahead.
Well, I can obviously speak from experience on that front, having been affected by that interval between whoever the last player is and when Sean comes out. I mean, people are on deadline all across, regardless of the mediums. And obviously that impacted your situation.
I was told by some of the guys that some of the national people were in there because this, LA, there's a lot of that here, and they couldn't believe it. They had never seen anything quite like it. And this might have been the all-time record. He made us wait. I think it was an hour and 10 minutes. Folks, they're usually on the plane flying home within an hour and 10 minutes. So I have no idea what was going on. Maybe he's firing Matthew Smiley tomorrow. I don't even know, but anyways, we're way off track.
Yeah, we're off track. And like the point is this, that on the heels of what happened down on the goal line, then they didn't go for a block or a return. I believe that was the question to McDermott in the post game. I'm listening to it here, so I don't hear everything that's said by the reporter. As time expires there or whatever, and he just said, well, we didn't have enough players on the field.
What are you doing? It was just bizarre. The end of the game was bizarre. They were in a position, had they saved that timeout, to maybe do something. You got all 3 timeouts, kick them deep, and maybe get your first stop of the day. Now, again, all this being said, Adam, there's probably no way they were going to stop the Rams. The Rams probably would have found a way to get the first down and end it because the Bills hadn't stopped them once. Yeah, they did stop them once, but hardly ever stopped them all day. But you're right. On the final punt with 7 seconds to go, why weren't there 11 people on the line of scrimmage? Never mind returning it 100 yards for a touchdown. Send 11 guys at the punter, and maybe you get a miracle. It was just poorly handled by McDermott and his staff at the end of the game.
All right, so let's get into what happened earlier because, Sean did make the point when he was repeatedly questioned about it that, that they shouldn't have been in that situation to begin with. And I know that sometimes falls on deaf ears in a game like this, but the point is that the Rams were able to come out. I mean, what happened in the first half and what they were able to do. And look, everyone knows the Bills can be run on, and the Rams were successful doing that early in the game. They have those receivers back and healthy now, but you could see the formula. They ran the ball extremely well, and that set things up for them in the passing game and really allowed them to establish some balance and some rhythm and led to the effectiveness that they had through the air as well all day long and putting up 44 points in this game. Oh, by the way, there was a punt blocked in return for a touchdown as well, speaking of special teams.
Yeah, the Rams did run the ball pretty well early in the game, and that allowed them to be balanced, something the Bills always try to do, and the Bills failed. The Bills could not run the ball all day. Without Allen, they had no running yards. James Cook was completely irrelevant in the game. Ray Davis and Ty Johnson didn't even get a carry. Ty Johnson had the touchdown on the pass reception. So, yeah, that was important for the Rams to get the run game established early. Kyron Williams had some nice plays, and that allowed Stafford. He used play fakes. They also used a ton of motion, which is what Sean McVay does. And when they've got things rolling, they are very tough to stop when they've got it all balanced and they're working like the way they were in this game. But look, Adam, there's just no excuse. I don't care what the running game was doing, what the motions were doing. The Bills' defense looked completely unprepared for everything. And we don't usually say that about a Buffalo defense. They were unprepared to stop anything the Rams tried. It was like they hadn't even watched this team on film. Puka Nacua, I mean, he's a very good player, but there's no reason why he should have been open as often as he was. And when they needed a play to be made, the whole stadium knew where the ball was going to go, and the Bills still couldn't stop him. I mean, they've got Jamarcus Ingram one-on-one against him in the fourth quarter after Rasul Douglas went out. I get that the Bills don't travel their cornerbacks, but why would you not put Christian Benford on Puka Nacua no matter where he was once Douglas was out of the game? That, to me, was another coaching failure. I know he's always on one side of the field. Well, he's a good enough athlete where he can figure out the other side of the field too. And I thought the Bills missed putting Jamarcus Ingram, who had a pass interference on a critical third down that kept alive a drive, and then he got beat for the winning touch, what proved to be the winning touchdown. Just not good enough. It was a bad day for the Bills coaching staff.
Yeah, there's no question about that. Rams, as a stat to back up the initial point we made, 137 yards rushing, 94 of them were in the first half. So that speaks to how they were able to kind of set things up as the game went on. Nacua, 12 receptions, 162, a touchdown, a rushing TD as well. And Cooper Kupp, 5 for 92 at a touchdown. The Rams, 320 yards passing in the game. And I would ask you this, Sal, and this may be, it's such a matchup league and personnel dictates so much, right? And look, the Rams do have some very gifted players offensively, and Stafford played a hell of a game, okay? Yep. But I thought last week against San Francisco, before McCaffrey went out, the effectiveness they showed in running the ball, the Niners, that made an impression on me, and we know that's been the weakness of this Buffalo defense all year, and it's obvious to me that McVay knew that, had looked at the tape. I guess what I'm saying to you is it's probably too much to suggest this is some type of a blueprint moving forward down the stretch and into the postseason, but I mean, it does at the very least speak to how to attack this Buffalo defense effectively, where they're vulnerable, and how to at least give yourself a chance with a balanced attack.
Oh, I think most teams know this, Adam. I mean, some are more successful at doing it than others, but what usually offsets, the Bills' struggles in run defense is because they play pass defense so well. That's their MO. They will give you rush yards. They're not going to sell out to stop the run because they're more concerned with having 7 people back in coverage and preventing the big plays. That's what they do. That's what their whole defensive philosophy is based on. So on these days when the other team can get the running game going, that can be problematic, especially when you've got a guy like Stafford who is so smart. He's one of the smartest quarterbacks in the league. There's no question about that. And he can really take advantage of a situation that was presented to him like the one the Bills presented today. And you look forward, I know we're going to get to this during the week, but you look forward to next week. They're playing a team that is outside of the Eagles with Saquon Barkley. This is probably the best true running team in the NFL because they've got 2 guys who are probably going to get 1,000 yards this season. And they're going to be able to gash the Bills over and over and over. That's why this game was so damn important today, Adam, because I just have a really terrible feeling that the Bills are going to be able to do anything against the Lions in that game. So you lose the third game, you're staring at a fourth next week. And all of a sudden, you could forget that first seed, and now the number 2 seed is going to be in danger because the Steelers keep winning. Right. But again, kind of going off track here. The run game was critical today, and the Bills had no answers. The Bills had no answers on defense for anything.
Well, no, your point about all of it's not off track because it's teams know it. I mean, they watch film, they understand everything, but I mean, it plays out in a very real, in a lot of ways, disturbing way in this game today, a 44-42 loss to the Rams that drops the Bills to 10-3 and now tied with, as you mentioned, Pittsburgh in the race for the 2 seed and the Chiefs playing the Chargers as we speak on Sunday Night Football right now. The Rams, 11 of 15 on third down in the game. Yeah. And, I mean, what it all translates to, what we just outlined, look at the time of possession. L.A., 38 minutes, 30 seconds. Buffalo, 21 minutes, 30 seconds. That's how you beat, despite what, and by the way, the Bills 103 yards rushing, only 15 in the first half, right? So Allen has the Superman cape on, doing things that no quarterback has ever done in National Football League history, but they still come up short. And those are the numbers that bear out the very clear reason as to why.
Think about that. The Bills had the ball for barely 20, not even 22 minutes and scored 42 points. I mean, that's almost unbelievable. When you think about that, it's almost unbelievable that they put up 42 points with less than 22 minutes of possession time. I mean, because the Rams defense really didn't do anything either. This was a bad defensive day, period. But we sort of expected that from the Rams. I mean, the Rams defense really isn't that good. They have a very good pass rush, and they never sacked Allen today, but they did get some pressure on him. Of course, he gets away and runs for 81 yards, so that it all proved, kind of pointless. But their defense isn't that good. So I kind of expected the Bills were going to have an impressive day. Not quite this impressive, but I thought it was going to happen. I did not expect the Rams to score 44 points. They were 11 of 12 on third down, Adam, at one point in the second half. It actually was 11 of 12 before they missed a couple late in the game. And then after they had missed one, I think it was on their last touchdown drive, they got the critical fourth down connection to keep the drive alive. So on possession downs, the Bills were just horrible. I mean, just horrible. It's hard to fathom that this happened today to this Bills defense. I mean, the Rams, they'd scored 30 points once in a game all year. And they did this today against Buffalo. Crazy.
All right. Something that stood out to me from Josh Allen on the postgame. The quote was, lacked urgency in all phases to come out of the game.
That's
like
kind
this.
of a cliche.
Is that a throwaway, I guess, is that a throwaway kind of cliche line from him? Or is that, and we'd asked about this, so you guys had during the week, is that they've clinched a division title now? The quote, you can play free now a little bit. Is there some combination of those factors that leads to whatever we saw from them, particularly early in this game?
To me, I think that was a throwaway. That's what Josh does. He spills out the cliches right and left. I mean, I led my report card. I'd already finished writing it with his utterly ridiculous comment that he needs to do more. I mean, you could not have possibly done more. For all you fantasy football nerds out there, he just set a record, an all-time scoring record for quarterbacks today. I mean, what more could he have done? Terrell Bernard had the same line. They didn't come out with urgency. I think that's baloney. There's plenty of urgency. There's only 17 games in a regular season. You could say that about a hockey game, a baseball game, or a basketball game. We didn't have urgency because there's 82 of those and 80 and 162. I get that. Football teams, I don't believe in lack of urgency. I don't believe in trap games in the NFL. And I get that they clinched the AFC East, but they haven't clinched anything else, Adam. They have not clinched the 1 seed, the 2 seed. Hell, they haven't even clinched the 3 seed at this point. I mean, that's still, if they really go on a colossal shit show losing streak here, that's not even a guarantee because they did lose to the Texans head to head. So I'm not buying the lack of urgency. They just got their asses whipped on defense today, plain and simple. Yep. There's no other discussion to have about that.
No, I mean, defensively, that was the turning point in the game. And adding fuel to the fire was some very questionable coaching. Obviously, given what happened down on the goal line with about a minute left or just over, and then on special teams as well. I mean, special teams, that was catastrophic, right? Yeah. Both in terms of the block punt return for a touchdown and then not having enough guys on the field, what that says.
Nobody even knew it. Nobody knew that during the game. I didn't notice they only had 9 guys on the field. Again, we don't have the best vantage point in the press box. You people on TV actually have a better vantage point than we do. Nobody knew it. Nobody in the locker room said anything. In fact, a bunch of guys interviewed Sam Martin. I was over talking to defensive guys, and I don't think he said anything about it. McDermott's the one who broke that news. And again, I wasn't in there for McDermott. The guys came up from the press box. They were like, "You're not going to believe this." I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "He said they only had 9 men on the field for the punt." I said, 9? I mean, even Rex Ryan had 10 guys on the field in that overtime game against Miami on the play that won the game for the Dolphins.
Yeah, his Bills finale, Rex's Bills finale.
To only have 9 guys on the field, I mean, that's like Little League stuff, for crying out loud. I'm dying to know who wasn't on there, who was supposed to be on the field. I mean, it's punt team. I mean, you know who you're supposed to be when you're on the punt team. It's pretty simple. You only have to do it 4 or 5 times a game. I couldn't even believe when I heard that McDermott admitted that to the guys.
Well, I think, in terms of his delay in coming out to address the media, I think there was a lot of discussion going on. And I'm sure, I know he talks to Terry Pagula after the game. A lot of times
Pagula speaks, I think, too, Adam. Seriously, I think he's a mute otherwise. He doesn't speak to anybody else.
So that goes on, but I'm sure Sean had some very specific things. Not that I'm making an excuse for him with that particular time interval, but things that needed to be addressed right afterwards. All right, so what are we at here? 21 minutes. Do we want to look for a question or two?
Yeah, there's a few questions in there or comments. Why don't we talk to a few people here? I see the one about why don't the Bills hire a time specialist? Well, they actually do. He's got help upstairs. There are people that help him with some of those time decisions. They also they brought in a former official to help him with challenges, which that hasn't really gone too well this year either. They've failed on a few of those. But he does actually have people up in the press box who are supposed to be helping him with some of the time management stuff. And quite frankly, I think the Bills have been pretty good for the most part, really the last couple of years with that. There hasn't been too many disasters like there were in the fourth quarter today of this game, but obviously 13 seconds is one, but overall they haven't been terrible in that.
All right, moving on. Stafford was amazing today. This is from Bob R., but good Lord, McDee's had a hand in it. When you run the ball 42 times, you're controlling the line of scrimmage. How many historic performance games by Allen need to be losses? I mean, that was something that Sean did address. I mean, look, especially defensive line. I mean, completely got blown away in the battle of the line of scrimmage in this game. Yeah,
they were horrible. The defensive line until the very end. I remember, I'm pretty sure Von Miller got a pressure that I remember, but they did almost nothing. I mean, he's 36 years old, and they never touched him. they hardly touched him. He had time to sit back there, pick out whoever he wanted to throw to. They weren't great in the run game until the end. I think in the fourth quarter, they started defending Williams a little bit better because they knew the Rams were trying to run the clock out. That was really the only time they stopped the Rams, was when LA was trying to run the clock out, or at least early in the fourth quarter. And then that last drive, they chewed up almost 7 minutes because the Bills, again, went back to not being able to stop anything the Rams were doing. I think the Bills' defensive line has been disappointing all year, even in a season when they came into this game 10-2. Ed Oliver, I think, has been a ghost most of the year. Rousseau's been great, but I didn't notice him too much today either. Von Miller plays, what does he play? A quarter of the snaps, and he's been okay at times.
You see a flash here and there from Von.
Yeah,
but he's not a consistent.
Really hasn't been that good.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, they have not been good up front. They've been reasonably good, in the secondary and at linebacker. Matt Milano wasn't. I remember him getting totally faked out of his jock on one play today.
Oh, yeah, right.
I mean, at this point, Dorian Williams, has probably played maybe a little bit better than Milano has these first 2 weeks. I gave him a pass for last week because it was the snow. And you really can't show much in conditions like that. I thought today we were going to see the full Matt Milano experience, and we really didn't get that. It was one of their worst defensive games in many, many years, with Milano playing pretty much all the snaps.
All right. So, I mean, some would suggest, this is kind of an aberration, right? I mean, this has been a very good, very well coached team, we should point out, for the vast, vast, vast majority of this season. I don't know that this does it. So we kind of wrap this up here, Sal. I don't know that this does anything to really undo my impressions of this team and how good they've been and how they might stack up in the postseason and the promise that surrounds all of that. But we had Jim Kelly on the show earlier this week for the Friday edition. And as you'll recall, very early, Jim kind of tells it like it is a lot of the time. And very early on in that discussion, he pointed to the run defense, especially. And today they were exploited through the air. And we talked earlier about how those two can be connected. And I think that was the case, especially early on in the game today. So it raises it certainly isn't a red flag, but it's maybe a yellow one in terms of how good teams are going to try and match up against them and what they're going to try and do against this Buffalo defense as they head down the stretch and potentially in the playoffs here.
Yeah, I mean, I would call it an aberration today too. I mean, we just don't see performances like this by Buffalo defenses. It was one of those days, and I mentioned this early in the week, and I've said it a few times in previous weeks. The Bills have had a part of their schedule lately where they're playing desperate teams. I mean, you could say the Dolphins in that second game, they needed to win to stay in the hunt. The Colts were a team like that. The 49ers last week, and now the Rams today. These teams are battling for their playoff lives. And finally, one of these teams got over on the Bills. The Rams played, and a couple of the guys in the locker room said this. That was a team that looked like it was playing a playoff game because they are in a dogfight. NFC West is wide open. They're right in the middle of it. And they're also in the hunt for a wild card spot in the NFC. So, playing a team like that is going to be difficult. Today, it was really difficult for the Bills, and the Rams kicked their ass. There's no doubt about it. But I would say it was an aberration. We don't usually see games like this for the Bills. All
right. Bob R. with a question. We'll do a couple more of these and then call it a night because I know you've got I know you got a long flight tomorrow. And I don't know if you're red-eyeing back or whatever it is you're doing, but
I'm going tomorrow, but I still got to write. Still got to write some more stuff.
All right.
Somebody, Brian Donovan, claims he just counted. There were 11 players on the field on the block punt.
That on the block punt, sure. On the block punt, we're talking about where the Bills had 9 was on the final punt of the game.
Oh, okay. See, I missed that. I thought it was on the block punt. No, so I misinterpreted that then.
It was on the final punt of the game as time expired. Right. Didn't go for a block. Or there was no return there. Ball just bounced and time ran out. And that it was on that particular play where they had 9 on the field. So, Brian, thank you for bringing that up. So Bob R., where do you draw the line between being grateful for the playoff run but accept that McD's decisions and style of D is built for 10 to 12 wins a season but not the playoffs?
Okay. I don't know. I mean, I've said this along. I mean, I'd rather the Bills were winning AFC East division titles than going 17 years without the playoffs. I mean, only one team wins the Super Bowl every year. It's hard. It's really hard to do that. And I get there's been massive disappointment in the playoffs. But again, the playoffs are hard, man. It's hard to win playoff games. Not every team can do it. And I just appreciate that they've been able to play as well as they have to get there. And I mean, I don't understand why fans. I get it why you want to win the Super Bowl. This is what we're all here for. But you got to enjoy. This team has been fun to watch. They're a good team. They had a shitty day today. They've had some shitty games in the playoffs. But every other franchise in the NFL goes through the same stuff. So we can have this argument over and over and over again, Adam, when it comes to playoffs or when do you draw the line. I don't know. All I could say is, you want to fire the coach now and start all over again? How stupid would that be?
No, that would be ridiculous. Okay, ridiculous. But I will say this to you, and Lord knows we have given McDermott and Bean a lot of credit for what they've created here in 5 straight division titles. In the running for the top seed in the AFC as they look to the postseason, having already clinched and doing it so early on the backside of Thanksgiving. I mean, it's very, very impressive. However, and I've also said this, I'm not going to step away from the in-game decision narrative. Whether the 13 seconds is sort of the granddaddy of them all, right? But whether it was this year, the Houston game, for example, the final possession, or what happened down on the goal line today. I mean, in those critical moments, we've seen it happen too many times, Sal, where I'm going to have a level of concern about it as I look toward the playoffs and pressure situations, because too many times they've come up short for those reasons. I guess that's my point.
I mean, you make a good argument. I can't dispute that they have fallen short in the playoffs, especially these last 2 years when they were at home for divisional rounds. That they had golden opportunities there and didn't come through. So I understand the aggravation that fans have about this. I'm just not ready to completely kick the can down the road on
Right.
McDermott and start over again with who? I mean, what are you going to do? So. Look, it's a discussion we can have at the end of the season. We'll have plenty of time to go over it, probably after the Bills fall short in the playoffs.
Well, as it stands right now, in terms of the push for the playoffs,
all the lights are off.
That's it. They're sending you a clear message. If they didn't send it to you before, they're sending it to you.
Yeah, this is it. So I guess we definitely have to go now.
We better wrap it up. All right, so tied with Pittsburgh now with 10-3 records. Tied for the 2 seed, and the Chiefs and Chargers playing as we speak. 9:23 left in the third quarter. KC is leading the Chargers 13-0 at Arrowhead. So the Chiefs with an opportunity, if that holds up, and there's a long way to go, obviously, to open a 2-game lead as they head down the stretch. And by the way, Buffalo with a very difficult game against the Detroit Lions at Ford Field next week, where I will be with you in the press box. Sal. So maybe
look forward to seeing you there.
From our maybe a little bit of strength in numbers from a Believe in Bills perspective. So, all right, Sal, thanks for everything.
All right.
Well done. And we'll talk to you again on Wednesday as they get back to practice and really begin preparations in earnest for the matchup with the Detroit Lions. So for Sal Maiorana, Rochester Democrat and Chronicle, I'm Adam Benigni, WGRZ TV, 44-42, highest scoring game in the NFL this season. Bills fall short, fall at 10-3 against the Rams. Have a good night, everyone.